Hello, America. Hello, species. Identity of volume slash S. We are in a semi-ancient trap, I thought best. This is not, see, there is theater. And then there is a nature of theater that is criminal insidiousness, where it says, well, it's positive, thinks it's positive, or believes it's positive, contemplates it, but doesn't understand because we were separated. Opinions and convictions were our recorded breaching method applied. But where and how, for example, when people make opinions about slavery, they left out what our founders needed us critically to understand simultaneously with that subject, which is the predicate acts delivery system method that was already entrenched since before their births, in phases, just like they locked Native American A through Z fighting each other. You know why? Mostly per correlation, because they made the fact-cheating nature of everyone as the subject of what the laws were about. It's not only people couldn't say things, they had to say things that were fake. Otherwise, they would be sought out, sensed, and hurt, like a nervous system of the devil, which is an organized breaching method, which we're going to refer to as an archetypal criminal enterprise. I am not a lawyer. I am not a police force, I'm not a criminal, I'm not a doctor. I took longer the time than doctors to study what is on and off campuses interage in nature. But I didn't even get credit for it, too. I have a degree, double major communications in English arts. Leading up to the World Trade Center attack, for example, there are many people tied to former director of the FBI, foreign and domestic, including the nations involved with the narratives told to us on the news about what led up to the World Trade Center attack, how we were going to respond to it. And there were everyone blaming other things other than themselves, wrongly, even when correctly. And this is where and how originally, before anyone was sophistication, before our founding parents were even born, before their parents were, a breaching method was sickly, distinctly on every modern nation's locations, areas, and states. That was /is fact-cheating nature oriented. That knew that nations individually grouped and together did not and could not fathom how they were having had to react to things. And then self-valued, foundational roles where we are fact-cheating nature. Since semi-ancient times, since before modern nations' religions, about this too partially. But see, this is simultaneously offensively prevented. Conjunction to what is actually practical logic. What is actual practical truth and sequence truth. You have to, one thing that slavery was about, is about, it's not, in other words, where that's written, that means that simultaneously they need to hide lipoaggressions to each grounded identity of individuals, groups, and the entire species identity of volume. Group difference, age, area, sexes, physical color, everything in demonstration of this invisible individual grouped and together. Species identity of volume /S. Like you have a cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall. Note, sharing other cell walls tied. Body of value discernment. Sharing what is coming through that. With the earth, the gases and the water and what is positive or negative to itself. But see, this is through another value nature system. I mean, this is from the value nature system that all can't help but be a part of. But where and how as fact treatment nature, Native Americans A through Z, first, and simultaneously colonists A through Z, and simultaneously the other countries involved with that, the other nations involved with that, the other companies involved with that, individually grouped and together. They were defenses of roles with positive and negative treatments, with truth treatments, with identity treatments, with sequence treatments in this science, where anything that is discernible like sequence is per this method, where what is simultaneous is where and how observation of that. What is true always has exceptions too. There is an identity of truth that is that. So we had left over and roles with entrenched positions in layers, incapable of defending themselves from what the governments, from all locations, areas, and states, investigations, vetting of everyone, opinions, convictions, formally other, private, juxtaposed, overt criminal enterprises, hundreds of nations shared policing here and there, shared style of self-value, criminal insidious natures of positive, and defenses of that, as styles forced by nature itself. So this is about boxing, where and how it is more practical to even to convict, not just to theorize, that boxing was revealed in ancient times with the martial arts and in relationship to where and how the sciences share an identity. That is differentially, especially, in demonstration of why and how they are, simultaneously important. See, but we can appreciate this because the short words of our species shows that both political parties and movements towards the alternatives are maintenance for roles already having been propagated as fact treatment styles, as victims per a method that knew it would make victim predators self-valued as good people, where our nature is good and only wants to be good. So they have people involved with laws that make them be able to test things and do things like that and hide things from parents. But they have roles with what knew they were going to do that. Like, for example, Russia and America, in the news they say, oh, Russians are going to do the election crimes. Meanwhile, they're involved with the election locations and with the town locations and with their own locations where everyone's speaking through other people. So then the media gets mad. They want to control conversations outside of courts where they have roles inside, outside of courts with fabrication of audio and video, fabricated police reports. The prisons and the on off the state of Connecticut prison offices and this interstate and worse than internations alone. They have, and Washington, D.C. World Trade Center, Wethersfield Interbranch, in the furtherance of that which our founding parents demonstrably left us means to demonstrate why and how in Wethersfield, Connecticut, where George Washington had to come to meet with the French general right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. Why and how they had to leave slavery here. And that was what enabled the Revolutionary War to be fought and won to be a country still above in law, that breaching method, entrenched and completely fact treatment nature oriented, but being and having been extended as forced roles against others with that. Groundings for its identity of value / value progression, of its needs to cover things up and to keep them blamed on other things, others themselves, and then keep that defended, rolls with that. A sick human fact-cheating nature, opinions nature, conviction natures. So they say this about others. They have self-value beforehand. All identity, the ground locations, like I'll do a video on the difference between evidence-based and correlation-based. See, because of the nature of how types of experts individually grouped in together are involved with self-value. Criminally foreign influence uses of all locations of each age of fact-cheating nature, sickly distinctly. Involved also with what keeps sickly non-distinctly from being discerned. It keeps an array of phenomena associated with statistics, maintain self-value. See, because we don't have mandated law being followed and having been followed outside of courts, outside of police departments, outside of campuses, on these places too. Intersciences, abridged, fact-cheating nature, phenomenon, relationship grounded to all locations, areas, states. Where and how the abridged fact-cheating nature of the Constitution, which is we're supposed to make unabridged. We have to do this by understanding James Madison. But so we have narratives. They're worse than just brainwash people. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even saying that's a legitimately used phrase. All words / phrases / sentences are being and having been used with criminal foreign influence and with physical delusions and with rules, crimes like racketeering, like sequence shifting, where simultaneous nature is being gotten over on. So all these issues that the president speak about, they take conjunction to campuses where we have doctors of various natures associated with the various interbranch, associated also them and the overt criminal enterprises, overtly sick killers, and people on the child offender registry involved with the people that put them away and with their doctors before they got caught. That's what's actually recorded. But they've been fabricating audio and video, fabricating transcripts. They have methods with where and how they have the online policing involved. Then they make the statistics. Well, just to present, we can't. We have to be able to counter where and how. There are all kinds of medical organized crime roles and natures of it, with people that use my name that fake conversations with me too, and tied to houses in my area, and tied to police over the last few months, and recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. Also through time, forging names, switching names, fabricating audio and video with courts to get over on other courts, and lying about with things that were already proven in courts, with overt killers and people associated with body dumping spots, associated also with a Dillon family and their uses of sustained uses of investigations and investigators, and means through that originally and still maintain criminally foreign influenced, maintain roles with remote uses of each location, area, and state's identities, including the interbranch, remote uses of them individually grouped and together further. Database tied stewards further. So they make things look like there are problems between kids and stuff like that because they've been attaching kids to fake locations and sequence shifts in their narratives when bad things stay going on and when good things stay going on. They have that to collusion with logic to all locations, areas, and stations, with passions and emotions, specifically through other motivations, natures, needs, interests, uses of them, but specifically employed by a breaching method, which is not economic per se. This is completely fact cheaping nature oriented. That means identity oriented. That means that the actually with that identity of relationship, it has to itself identity to positive and negative simultaneously, and to positive and negative further simultaneously, distinctly, not distinctly, further distinctly, not distinctly, and simultaneously, in demonstration of the quality of diffusion we are, as automatically temporary positive. Where and how more and more temporary / lasting positive or negative is being and can be made here or forced away from here as temporary / lasting, as temporary positive / lasting positive or negative, bonded to the identity of the value progression that is more finite than three identities of zero, and that is greater than infinity. That which correlation reveals, English was revealed to teach about, but by and as relationships to ancient history and to modern passions and emotions and convictions and opinions and physical delusions, yet standing, being and having been self-valued, criminally foreign influenced, breaching method applied. Predicate acts delivery system method applied. I'm not a lawyer, not a police form, not a criminal. Those forms are in collusion. For example, when they bring up the police, as if there are police and there are crazy people riding, something like that, dangerous situation, the police have to be one unit. They have to be positive onto all parts of themselves. That's the truth, right? You have to watch where the truths are being used to lie. You have to watch where identity is being used to lie. Having been used to lie. Having been used to sequence shift. Having had roles with standing recorded. All identity ground locations with the worst things unimaginable because of what is connected to it also through other motivations though. Needs, interests, on and off campuses and on and off private databases simultaneously. On and off identity ground locations in relationship to such simultaneously. See, this is where we are a value / value progression as temporary positive, as a quality of diffusion, that it is positive or negative onto the identity of science that passions and emotions were supposed to be allowed to defend. See, I also recorded that you can't record police, but even when you have rights to and obligations to, per them, like through CNN, Fox News, reporting, MSNBC reporting. I said, well, just to be sure, though, anyway, I made them record themselves. Because these are people that are intercities connected, sustained, roles with connected on-campus relevant predicate acts roles that were on-off campuses, though. But then that keeps that on-off campuses further. So, for example, they make exceptions. They make people know other people. Where and how all identity ground locations. Like this person works here, they work in an identity ground location. Since before computers, everything was database oriented. This is more finite than and greater than the sense and sensibilities of everyone. What force roles then and now, not letting anyone demonstrate the breaching method that was used, that forced slavery. Not letting anyone demonstrate that the people pretending that they're against it, we're in collusion with, we are in collusion with it, but through other motivations, nature's needs, interests, not politics. That's in the narratives that we are told to them. Politicians, everything like that. They want to write, a speech, but they can't. But no one ever taught them about the three identities of theater. There is theater, positive or negative. There is theater as that nature of criminal insidiousness. And there is theater as what is temporary / lasting positive per its system, which is prevented correlation nature. They are the same people, they are preventing someone who had every identity of the ground location has people against their education of their kids, simultaneously pretending other, in relationship to a lie progressions, where the private database relationships, stewards individually grouped together, they go to the identity of the ground location. The inter-branch ones, the campuses ones, inter-databases further, all identity of the ground locations were our victims. Specifically per this breaching method that knew what they were victims of was going to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. For example, as slavery. Leaving out the slavery laws against everyone and the forced words on everyone, the sickly distinctly, but also sickly non-distinctly, having been not discerned. See, what is simultaneously value is prevented free speech. This is greater than, and while being more finite than three identities of zero, while being completely the value of internet and or of physical hardware and computers. This is where and how we are a space / existence, value / value progression. We're both space and existence simultaneously, and the value of that / as a quality of diffusion. This is where and how one identity of volume is making more of itself, by making more and more temporary / lasting positive or negative to itself. And we as that. But we now. See, but per its system, which we all are and can know, but we have to know it through its system, through its identity, the ground, locations, areas and states, identity of relationship to itself, as that which works, for example, with water and ground, and finite, active, and progressive in ways that reveals evolution's fruits and gifts. Evolution science does not work without the identity of the ground, and does not pretend that the way they've been working with the identity of the ground is not abridged. Constitution, breaching method of play. Forget that. Don't forget it. Okay, thank you. So this is all we have to do is realize, see how locations, areas, and states of each country, they're going to force different types of leaders to self-value, criminal insidious nature of positive treatments in collusion with people that don't even know and do or not, but with overt slash insidious negative treatment natures, like fact treatment nature, and styles of it. See, so we, outside of courts, outside of police stations, we need to be able to report what is actually recorded. There are people that are attaching people to fake words on police stations that are also police forms associated with Washington, D.C. and World Trade Center, and with intermilitary, involved with identity thefts and frauds, and on and off campuses policing of schools, also private, in conjunction with the regular police forms. Also as roles with uses of how they refer to the police as one thing. So it's not them going, in other words, they're exploiting exceptions. If they're going in as one unit, they're supposed to work for as one, but there's people in collusion with what's going on with the location, endangering them in the first place, then there are exceptions to that. See, they made those exceptions self-valued. They kept self-valued what is intercities, campuses of each age and nature, also interstates, and also worse than just internations. So it had already effectively had only known records blaming other things other than themselves, even when they're correct, about what happens bad between our countries, individually grouped and together, and about what happens in relationship to their defenses of their responses to it. So there are women and men at Trinity College who are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with girls that were forced by their family members associated with FBI families and CIA families that have been involved with investigators, and with uses of black families and of black opinions and convictions, for example, in relationship to where that is evidence, and where in relationship to where simultaneously the discorrelation demonstrated by the worse than forsaken people of locations, let alone that on top of it, breaching method influenced and exploited having been and being influenced American history tellings, which are direct assaults on, black people and white people sickly distinctly, which is direct assaults upon our unity, which they are also fake unity, because how they have the members of, in other words, they're sequence shifting. They demonstrate how they have investigations, and vetting identities involved with people with AT&T used remotely through administrations, as clear as day. See, when I was in grammar school, it hurt me because I wanted to heard like distinctly, not distinctly, simultaneously, about the great proof that slavery was / is of the criminally foreign influence. I didn't have that phrase at the time. Of the criminally foreign influenced, fake positive, and insidious / overt negative collusion that the people pretending to be other are for. Now they know that little kids can correlate such. And this method already knew that they would have to hide from correlation. Per how all identity grounds, locations, differences, every single difference, even the words you use trying to defend the people and things you care the most about, that is being used against you, and your self-valuing roles with that, because of all that is actually tied to everyone speaking through other things other than themselves. And that because of the method recorded where they have you forced to use other people's names, and it makes it look like you know them, in context you don't, where they were involved with out of sequence, all kinds of natures of predicate acts with databases on campuses that are also tied to live progressions from there, to all identity ground locations further and further, and roles with the wire, explained to me, demonstrated to me, involved with this through time. All his conjunctions back to police families, intercities involved with the O'Brien family, and with the DeMorrow families, intercities involved with intercities from Wethersfield, Interbranch, involved with Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College, are involved with predicate acts with them. I never saw him on the campus there or there. But there's a woman at Trinity College who has her family and a bunch of boyfriends at the same time of a woman named Heather Hansen, who's also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with former director of the FBI's co-defendants, and a Dillon family, and a Kerr family through the confessions of Officer Jerry Miller, and of people with the name Kaya and ERR, and people with New Britain Superior Court that also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated roles with predicate acts with them, like intercities, fabricating audio and video, and with people on the child offender registry. They had roles with other natures of child abuse, and further sexual and medical. Now him and Joe DeMorrow, they confessed, demonstrated, recorded it to me that they were involved with sharing a girl, and that was involved with whatever they had investigators that had them pretend to have filmed things then. So if I say I don't know those people now, they're going to say I'm a liar and quote to those pictures. Now, so these are people. So in other words, they're all exceptions, the exception nature they set up. These are people I didn't even have classes with that went to private schools, and tied to people that like 2 times in a cafeteria. I like 3 times in school, 1 time near a gym. There was a girl tied to a Joe DeMorrow and to a Heather Hansen. I saw her a couple other times for a couple moments, so I don't know her. But though she was pretending she was involved with investigations, and vetting identities. Recorded also involved with drug crimes with kids, and with medicine crimes with kids, with foreign and domestic family members, overt criminal enterprises. How they have that tied to undercover people, and these are people associated on off Fox Connecticut News, on off WFSB, which Fox Connecticut News is in Hartford, Connecticut, and WFSB is in Rocky Hill. They recorded, confessed, and demonstrated they just ignore people, and they attach people to fake words to hide what is actually recorded in databases. They're recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with depositions, like of people associated with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his defendant capacities. He also has roles with predicate acts with an officer named Magnanos, which is distinct from Steve Manos. But the officer Magnanos brought up the name Steve Manos. He's also roles with a Detective Samuda, who's involved with confessed, recorded, demonstrated. He switched identities with the officer Magnanos, or how they had it spelled. Now he's also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with predicate acts with a whole bunch of other people in my town's police chief, and many tied to him, intercities, involved on off campuses, and with fire departments, and with everyone's family members and neighbors. This is also how they have the sense and sensibilities of everyone. So these are judges that have been forging names and switching names, have been using the phenomenon of being able to get people forced to interact with people interbranch, and or not to interact. They use it either way to fabricate audio and video, exploiting how they've been building on that through time, how they've been exploiting that. So This is also many people tied to forensics locations formerly, like tied to former director of the FBI, and people associated with federal criminals with him, like a Joe Aiello is also what recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with Wethersfield Police and Hartford Police, with predicate acts on and off schools. I don't know if that's with the Kerr family, which is also by the officer Jerry Miller before the coronavirus, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously before that with others too. They recorded, confessed, and demonstrated a Kerr family is one of the ones further on off campuses with connected child abuses, and with a Dillon family that was recorded, confessed, and demonstrated forced with my new and past neighbors, also forced. If they want to debate it, then I know everyone's good people, but see, but if they want to debate, that's why we have to get the names forging and switching, because there were uses of investigators, and investigations of that with predicate acts on my street, and roles with it on campuses connected, and uses of that are relevant, because these are also people involved in many ways with the World Trade Center leading up to it, in it, with pretended and really perceived legitimate reasons for their treatments of positive and negative in their own and other people's identities. Names, no. Sequence relationships, no. Identity ground relationships, no. Now these are people also further uses predicate acts and uses of courts remotely, as they used the Ninth Circuit Court remotely, post-dating what had been brought to the court and proven had been brought to the court on time, and therefore time-stamped timely, and the Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center, right before the attack. But someone had post-dated that from inside the court, which was proven later. From inside the court, they post-dated it and showed that to the panel of judges. So then in 2006, before the World Trade Center attack, I asked people for help regarding specific facts, because these are also treatments of fact-finding and uses of such interbranch and involved with the locations having been used remotely. Dozens of people associated with New Britain Superior Court alone are involved also with Hartford courts and with other courts leading up to the World Trade Center attack, where and how they are with the police forms and their family members involved with sick opinions and convictions regarding their treatments of evidences, regarding their treatments and uses of our databases, stacked information, and regarding their treatments and uses of the identities of the law and words like police, individually grouped and together. But so there was also a police chief years ago, also associated with the same house on my street over the last few months, with more people named Sullivan, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. By them sought me out, Wethersfield Police, to record, confess, demonstrate. Now, there's a Bob Chase who also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, has roles with identity thefts and frauds, for one thing, slander, and way worse, with child abuses, and way worse, with a Phil Cololo. I had nothing to do with him. See, these are one of the people where the interbranch had been stacking fabricated things in campuses and off campuses. There are also prosecutors and people associated with courts and police forms involved with the news predicate acts relevant, and their roles with uses of that, because they're preventing people from reporting specific, rape threats and demonstration of sustained abuses of kids and methods of it and uses of it that have nothing to do with whatever programs they have that are off the records tied to the Cub Scouts These are also identity ground locations. These are also how they've used people's neighbors to keep sense and sensibilities. Where and how, again, with this they've been using investigators, and investigations of that to hide their roles with predicate acts, also with overt criminal enterprises, and with the witness protection programs ties to the street with the same people involved, tied to the same narratives involved with those names and sensibilities as people involved with CCSU predicate acts in the databases, and tied uses of it, illusions that people are pretending were real for whatever reasons juxtaposed, but ones being and having been exploited to affect the World Trade Center attack and to affect exploitations of the cover-ups of what affected it. Because they were already, all these countries involved with identity ground locations uses that is already layered. Intercampuses of each age and nature. Inter-private database relationships. All that is criminally foreign. When they speak about politics and stuff like that, they can't afford to have mandated law followed outside of courts. These are people Weathersfield interbranch. So in other words, that there's a woman, I don't know her name. When she was a little girl, I don't remember. She was involved with the Heather Hansen, with a whole bunch of people like a Kerr family and a DeMauro family that are involved with this Dillon family now, with New Britain Superior Court. Now, Rick CM Faglione, I barely know too, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed Brian Silver and a Brendan Leahy's are involved with them, with fabricating audio and video with judges and prosecutors on and off campuses, intercities connected. Now these are people in my 6th grade class who also made confessions about Central Connecticut State University's roles with everyone speaking to others in confessions of like when I was in 3rd grade, there's an O'Brien family, with a police forms family, involved with investigators, and investigations of that are involved with abuses of boys and girls. That also had their parents attaching me and others to fake locations, fake communications with themselves. Now, so you have to deal with how the courts are involved personally, criminally, with the doctors, foreign and domestic, and with nurses' families, and with programs like with DACA. All that. Those are fake parties as victims of what our founding parents wanted us to demonstrate. So we have to use real science. This is what the ancient gaming system is about. So it is recorded, all the phrases and the words. Either you have to do it as a criminal and seditious nature, entertaining that, or you can't use phrases and words for science. That is using the identity of truth that is exceptions at the same time, in demonstration of the same thing. Now this is offensively obfuscated per that method of wire crime rolls, with a whole bunch of people tied to these DeMauro brothers, and they're recorded, confessed, and demonstrated roles with investigators, and vetting identities in the past, also associated with this Dillon guy, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated further involved with real estate crimes, and with courts with uses of that, because then they're sequence shift. They have to hide illusions tied to such. They have to pretend not to realize. So they've been using the worst things that happen, because these are also people involved with the North End of Hartford, with where and how they have the intercultural narrative natures, KKK, Confederate flag theme, that are I don't think I ever saw Joe DeMauro and what's his name? Joseph Glavinskis together. But see, in other words, both of them were involved with identity thefts, frauds. Never tried to contact the either one of them. The only exception was with Joe DeMauro is he recorded me to make all these confessions. I mean, I recorded him because he made all these confessions. He was involved with my 5th grade teacher, involved with the former Mayor Gold, his family, and whatever they were doing with them. Now that was also tied to the Mayor Gold down the street from them. There's a Perone family, and there's a house across the street from them that is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with football coaches that prosecutors and judges also have involved with predicate acts with them, with predicate acts roles with them at least, with Maiano family, and or sequence shifts roles specifically. Sequence shifts roles and such, worse, with the Jonathan Maiano. Also involved with the house on my street, further involved with the police calling from Wethersfield town offices and from the Wethersfield Police Department where they're switching names, forging names, with the people involved with identity thefts through time. Then they put me in a faked communications with the older Mendez brother too. These are also roles with the uses of Facebook page for sexually themed, sexually oriented, medical families oriented, and interbranch. In other words, branches of government, judicial, the political branch, and the executive branch. Police forms, FBI director, the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. He's also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with proven federal criminals. You know, even if that was made up, they're involved with predicate acts on off the campuses with people that I went to schools with that are involved with the narratives on Trinity College, that with the people, in other words, involved with, in other words, they made an exception. They timed while I was going to walk by some girl 2 times, 3 times. So I knew exactly what they were doing. And that's the one with all the, and then all the ones have ties between them. People that made confessions to me about a whole bunch of things at once. And then they use this is relevant because then they use that to pretend they know you. This is where investigators, and vetting identities are where interbranch now are forging names and switching names. They're exploiting where and how name stacking is used to keep people's sense and sensibilities fake and pretending other, and that breaching method employed. So, someone, this is a YouTube challenge, or if that was someone else's phrase, let's make it something there. I don't know if that was a contest, a YouTube contest, and challenge, whatever. Who has means in New York to go to CVS, buy a poster board, wherever they have it, and a big black marker, and draw a computer, and put computer. Who has the means to host a website for the most forsaken locations in our country, and even if they don't have to make it themselves? So we just start artistically obligating human fact-sheeping nature to attendance, where and how it was is tactically forsaken. Because the value of that, our value progressions of styles, speaking for positive and negative anyway, Positive is about the identity of relationship and the value of that simultaneously increasing with its identity. That everything is in conjunction to distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. Everything is in demonstration of its distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous identity of relation to itself. So we'll examine this even with music theory. We'll change it to music science. Then York theorize. Because the notes of music are individually grouped and together bound, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously in demonstration of the same thing that English was revealed to teach. So the physically observable criminal reengineering of ancient revelations, Republic's value, and its intercampus systems' concentrated value, / value progression, value. No. Twill just promote vaccines. Now, excuse me, YouTubers, if I can have one person from every state, 50 states, to believe in it, I'll make a movie where it'll be donated, so it won't be anyone's fault. You won't have to worry about it. It'll be serious. But we change the colors, because it is critical that everyone understands that breaching method, a predicate acts delivery system method, not just to understand that method, to understand how it is, rolls with the worst negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures that happen with all locations, areas, and states. Rolls with it without even from being there. And that's the same time the investigators, and investigations of that, and the use of identities of law. That also is inclusion to those spots, though. So forgiveness is because we need a quality of fact, human nature, that allows people to report sequence shifts, that allows people to report all that is juxtaposed where and how. The extortion method, for example, method /S, just focusing on that in the predicate acts delivery system then and now. The breaching screen, cover-ups of it, then and now. We have real people that will sacrifice themselves physically, themselves emotionally, themselves intellectually, but none will do it with soul. And they pretend other. Where and how. All mandated law needs to be followed. Everyone makes convictions about strangers. And they have people who are strangers that only pretended other because they were involved with investigators. So I could see it clear as day, because the Joe DeMauro recorded, confessed, and demonstrated is involved with men and women at Trinity College that recorded, confessed, and demonstrated they're involved with them with predicate acts, with Hartford courts, and with New Britain's courts, dozens of people also involved with through the roles fabricating audio and video, roles with wire crimes, and with AT&T people, and people on and off Two-Route Highway involved with identity theft frauds, people associated with Soundview involved with child abuses, identity thefts, frauds, involved with prosecutors and judges used remotely, offensively as victim predators, though. See, our founding parents wanted and need us to understand and tell about how they were forced to be victims, forced to speak and entertain, criminal and seditious natures of positive treatments and of negative treatments, people and names, all because of what was already entrenched in layers. You're forced to roles with what was it's very simple. It's only extensive. And so even words like simple and complex are effectively with mass self-value, formally and other criminally foreign influence premises treatments, sequence treatments and such, quality of fact treatment nature treatments. So when people want to argue about quality of fact treatment, or what's your research? Give us a source. They're preventing these are identities roles at the same time. No, covering up where correlation is its own evidence. I've been trying to report interbranch. When you go up there, if you try to speak to them, they're fabricating audio and video. They are with physical delusions, but they're also recorded with that juxtaposed with criminal intent, malice, also acted because they have to pretend passions and emotion because of how they have everyone's neighbors and family members forced to roles. Everyone's, even including the principals involved further with all kinds of sick child abuses, not just of the doctors, foreign and domestic, and their family members. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated also with a pattern involved with Town Line Drive, in the corner of Town Line Drive and Southstein Highway, as the people leading up to the World Trade Center attack in it and since. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved. Also with the Scalora family and people reported by their family members involved with Wethersfield Police and with the National Guard, with predicate acts, also with overt criminal enterprise, foreign, whole bunch of ways. As people associated also with Middletown locations involved with medical racketeering, identity thefts and frauds, also involved with Phil Colella, with identity thefts and frauds roles with them, and with other people involved with like private policing and stuff like that, and training and education of our interbranch that is used to keep them corrupt, and self-valued roles with that, and narratives pretending other that can only get away with it if they keep using their identity ground locations. How the breaching method knew they would. Simultaneously self-valuing how that was forced, self-valued. How the breaching method was entrenched, that didn't let our founding parents have free speech, that forced us to understand, entertain fake people with passions and emotions and aggressions if we try to counter it. The interbranch is in collusion with people that are, good people. Till if they want to speak, they have to do with sequence shifts. They have the self-value roles leading up to and in the World Trade Center attack with a whole bunch of proven federal criminals. Before that was proven, they were involved with kids when I was a kid, creating exceptions. I had no response to that girl who Joe DeMoro told I was bipolar, and he just walked by that one time. And one time it was outside the caf, right outside the door. Now this is she's associated with people at Trinity College and CCSU, with a whole bunch of different medical families, and roles with her boyfriends, with predicate acts roles, even if just wrongdoing or whatever. Identity theft, frauds roles, sequence shift roles, like a Christopher Cullen, per Joe Aiello, also involved with New Britain Superior Court and with Wethersfield Campus's Facebook page with child offenders on the registry and people tied to them further involved with, again, other agencies